Great Britain is one of the Earth's 4 great traditional brewing nations. It's 2000 BC. The Beaker people, warriors for whom drinking was so crucial that their pottery beer mugs went to the grave with them. Remains found on the Orkney Islands in Scotland showed that the beer mugs had contained a beer-like drink, including meadow wheat, hemlock, deadly nightshade, and wheat. In 320 BC, the Greek explorer Pytheas of Massilia came to Great Britain. He discovered people making beer from grain and honey. Honey beers had also been mixed with wheat, barley, or even herbs for a number of years, and this saw the creation of mead. In 55 BC, Julius Caesar arrived on the shores of Britain in an attempt to create a European Union. His men drank wine on arrival, but were soon converted to beer. The first written reference to ale was in 100 AD. A commander of the Roman legion posted to Northumbria sent out a request: "My fellow soldiers have no beer, please order some to be sent." The first named brewer also came out of 100 AD from a Roman fort in modern Northumbria. It mentions Accreditation, the brewer. It's 500 AD, and the Angles and Saxons started to arrive in Great Britain to conquer. Their social lives revolved around beer and ale houses, and they recognised 3 main types of beer: mild ale, clear ale, and also Welsh ale. 1188 saw Henry II introduce the Saladin tithe. To pay for his crusades, the first tax on beer was born. By 1200 AD, most brewing in Britain was done by women. Outside the cities though, 1 family in 25 brewed for sale. Ale was also drunk for breakfast, lunch and supper, as water was contaminated. The Abbess of Hildegard of Binden in Germany, writing around 1150 AD, said, "Beer fattens the flesh and lends a beautiful colour to the face. Water, however, weakens a person." In Europe, hops are taken over as the flavouring in beer from Groot, a mixture of different herbs. The first known exports of hop beer to Britain came to Great Yarmouth in 1361 to 1362. At the end of the 14th century, Great Yarmouth was importing 40 to 80 barrels of beer a month, while in 1398, Colchester imported 100 barrels of beer. London, around 1380, had about 30,000 inhabitants, and there were some 1,000 ale breweries. In the 1400s, brewing of hopped beer, in contrast to unhopped ale, began in Britain. The beer brewers were generally immigrants from what we now call modern Belgium and Holland. And for the next 200 years, beer was attacked as an alien drink, not fit for ale drinking Englishmen. However, hops was never banned in England. It's 1520 AD. After relying on hops being imported from Europe for more than a century, the English started to cultivate hops in Kent. Hops were originally viewed with suspicion, and they avoided taxes on spices levied by religious orders. By 1577, hop cultivation has reached Hertfordshire. In 1540 AD, Henry VIII had 2 brewers to supply his household, one for ale and another for beer. At Hampton Court, his main dwelling, 600,000 gallons of ale and beer were consumed a year. That's more than 13,000 pints a day. In 1550, traditional ale brewers and brewers of hop beer joined the Brewers' Company. The brewers of ale far outweighed the beer brewers, and all kinds of unfair measures were passed. The word scum probably came from these times. By the 1600s, most brewing was still done by inn and alehouse brewers, or also in the home, especially in the country where almost every farm and manor house brewed its own ale and beer. In in 1790, a brewer called Hodgson from Bow, on the outskirts of London, close to where the East India ships moored up on the River Thames, started to supply ships with a lighter ale, as it survived longer than darker ales. Hodgson's Pale Ale became famous, but unfortunately he tried too hard to maintain his monopoly, so in 1822, Hodgson prompted rival brewers from Burton-upon-Trent to compete. It turned out that the water in Burton was ideal for making pale beers. Indian Pale Ale was born. It's now 1881, and almost 40 years after the first pale lager was brewed in Pilsen in the Czech Republic. This lager beer style started to be brewed in Britain. The first purpose-built lager brewery in Britain, the Austro-Bavarian Brewery of Tottenham in London, opened its doors. However, it did not last long, and for the next 80 years, lager was a minority drink. The First World War brought in restrictions on the brewing industry, with the strength of beer reduced and tax levels increasing enormously. After the war, high taxes remained in place and beer strength never recovered to its previous levels.